Ladies and gentlemen, lend me your ear.
Hi, this is your host Q, live and direct from Psyche Studio Kochi. Hope you all are having a good time. Welcome to the Groundbreaking, where we sit down with creatives, design and business pioneers to discuss their journeys, process and approach. If you're listening to this podcast for the first time, consider subscribing. Also check out our website. We are working on a newsletter and a slowly growing design community on Discord, where we have weekly design live session every Saturday where we learn something new. For this episode, we have Hussain Almossawi, a design visionary and industry leader who has made a lasting impact in the world of design. In our conversation, we explore his incredible journey from his deep-rooted passion for design to his remarkable work with renowned innovation brands such as Nike, Adidas, and Ford. Hussain shares his invaluable insights on making a meaningful impact in the design world and emphasizes the value of staying humble and hungry throughout the creative process. With a contagious energy and an unwavering drive, Hussain takes us on a captivating ride through his experiences, offering wisdom and inspiration to both seasoned professionals and aspiring designers. From his early days at top brands to the founding of his own studio, he shares the secrets of success and the importance of continuously pushing the boundaries of creativity. So get ready to embark on a thrilling journey as we dive into the world of design with Hussain Almossawi.
ये है ग्राउंड बेकिंग.
Hey, hi Hussain, how's it going with you?
Hey Deepak, how are you? Good to be here.
Yeah, doing great. Finally, we are making to the podcast. And again, thanks a lot for hopping onto the podcast. And I'm already very excited to what we're gonna talk about.
Absolutely, likewise.
So what's happening? Where are you right now? What time is it?
So I'm based in the US. I have a studio here, Mossawi Studios. It's morning, I guess it's night where you are.
Yeah.
So just starting the day out now. This is the first thing on my calendar.
Cool. So I mean, let's just start with the talk. Taking a deep dive into your journey to design. I mean, you were you like born and brought up in US?
So I come from a small island called Bahrain. Bahrain is in the Middle East, for those who don't know about it, close to Dubai, close to Kuwait. So that's where I grew up. That's where I went to school. And then when I went to university, when I was 18 years old, that's when I moved to the US. And I've been in and out of the US, since then. So I did my bachelor's degree here. Then I did my master's degree in Canada. I worked in Canada for a bit. Then I went to the US. I worked a bit, went back to Bahrain, and then I settled here in around 2016. So I've been in the US since then.
All right. And I mean, I'm just curious to know, first of all, I think Bahrain is pretty popular. I think it's also because it's Formula One.
Exactly. We're just known for the Formula One.
Yeah, because that's how I got to know about Bahrain. So I mean, you always you had an idea. Okay, I'm gonna move out from my place and I'm gonna pursue design, or is it something that which came a little later in your life?
I think it started like wanting to be a designer. Always started out. For me, it was there since I was a kid. But growing up, gradually, I started to understand more and more what I wanted to do. Like when I was a kid, I didn't even know what kind of design disciplines there were.
Yeah.
I just knew I was into design. I started out doing like desktop wallpapers for NBA players. I was doing that for fun. And, just the stuff that regular young artists still do today. So I was doing that for fun. And then that passion, that love for design became more serious. I got more clients, freelance work along the way. And then I started to look into university. Okay, what can I study? Even back then, like 2006, when I went to join university, there weren't many programs. Like you'd go to a university, they tell you, okay, you like design, you can study computer science. That's how off it was. But now you have so many different disciplines, which is amazing. I wish I had back then. So anyways, I studied graphic design. And then when I studied graphic design, during my 4 years at university, I was still freelancing. I found a new passion, which was industrial design. I was always into 3D. So I went and I did my master's in industrial design. And then I was still into more 3D, which was visual effects. And I guess that's where I really went deep into visual effects on my own. Of course, my background really helped me. And that's what I do like most of the time now. 80-90% of my work is visual effects.
Wow, I mean, so I didn't know about the part where you studied industrial design, and it's awesome that I also, studied industrial design for 5 years. So
Nice.
yeah, I think there's something relatable I can find.
Yeah, I was always into, like when I was doing graphic, I was always thinking about the 3D side. Because, graphic in general, it's very flat, it's 2D. So I was trying to mix and combine between my love for 3D and graphic design. Like I did typography in 3D, I did other stuff in 3D. And then I guess the path of 3D is what took me towards industrial design. And we had another program, like it was graphic design. We sat close to industrial design in the university. So I had friends there. And seeing what they did really inspired me and got me excited, designing cars, designing other stuff. So yeah, the passion grew. And just looking at other people, it really inspires you and helps you to make your decisions in life.
Yeah, for sure. My last episode was with Hector Silva. He's been doing pretty good stuff. I think
he's amazing.
He's based out of Chicago as well.
I believe so.
Yeah,
so. Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, we chatted a lot about industrial design and where it's moving. He's been running this cohort also, which is pretty dope. So yeah, I mean, glad to know. So at this point where you were learning industrial design, you got intrigued towards 3D. And I mean, did it also teach you like something which you're doing now? Because I can see that you kicked off your career, doing a lot of interface design, graphic design, things like that.
For sure. So yeah, when I started, I was doing lots of logo design, brochures, web design. I guess the first thing I started with was desktop wallpapers and web design. So to me, that was all design. Like I didn't even differentiate between the two. But then, so what was your question again about 3D?
Yeah, was it like taking participation into industrial design or made you, dip your toes into 3D or?
Yeah, I guess doing different things at the same time. Like I'm never a fan of just saying I'm a graphic designer. I'm this kind of designer. I think you live once. And even if you look at you look at the Romans and you look at Michelangelo, you look at Leonardo da Vinci, they did so many things at the same time and they were good at it. There's nothing wrong with that. So I think that's really, like if I'm curious about something, I'm interested in something, definitely go and pursue it. And the beauty of that is like, even when I was doing graphic design and like, let's say when I worked for EA Sports, I was doing interface design, user interface design. But my love of 3D and my knowledge in 3D, I was able to incorporate some 3D elements into the UI design. And just this blurring between the lines, that's where innovation really happens. Like you can mix and match between different disciplines. There's this great book called The Medici Effect, and it's by Franz Johansson. So he talks about really this intersection between different disciplines, like biology and architecture. I mean, that's even much more beyond design. Maybe you have philosophy and physics. Maybe, like two very unrelated things. He says when you bring them together, that's really where the beauty of things come out. And I think it's the same with design. If I'm a UI designer and I'm a 3D designer, what can I do with a combination of those two things? If I'm a graphic designer, a logo designer, and a visual effects artist. So, like drawing those intersections between these different fields, it's always exciting. And that's how you push the field to a new space and create some new stuff.
Yeah. Don't you think it makes more sense now? Because, a lot of tools are becoming obsolete. Maybe not now, maybe in like the next 3-4 years. So do you think this approach is like more apt than ever?
I mean, yeah, even with like AI, like you see how you can get ideas in a second. And like I look at AI as a tool, never as a final design. But it's really mind-blowing how fast it's moving and what it's creating. And AI is a good example because you can say like, I want to create a car in the style of Deepak's work. And it gives you something that you never imagined before. And it really is, I mean, going back to that idea of intersections, I think it really does create that in a really cool way. Give me what if Michelangelo designed the car? What if, like as industrial designers, we always think about that stuff.
Yeah.
What if Ferrari designed the toaster? I mean, that's one of the projects you always get in industrial design. What does a toaster look like by a car brand? and AI just does that. It speeds up that process. It makes it much faster to get to those results.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, was it your inspiration behind creating N-Cycle? And how did that happen?
So N-Cycle was a project we did in 2011. It was between me and my friend Marine Miftio. He's an architect based in Albania. So he has also a good background in automotive design. I was doing industrial design at the time as well. So we just got to know each other online. We did a few cars together. It got featured on lots of places. We did a Jaguar concept car, which got us into some trouble as well because it got featured in so many places. It made it on the Jaguar magazine, but at the same time, Jaguar was coming up with a new car, so it created some trouble with the media. Like people were a bit confused. Going to the N-Cycle, me and Marine, we designed the N-Cycle, and our idea was just to do a 2-week fun project. What would a futuristic bicycle look like? So we just tried to, just like any design project, think about it of how can we push the boundaries? What was never done before? Like bicycles always look the same for the past 100, 150 years. How can we challenge that? How can we give it a new look? So we designed something for fun, 2 weeks, digital. Nothing was meant to be made out of it. We shared it with some people. We posted it online. It became a 2-month project. Okay, let's make more 3D. Let's, promote it more. Let's get more excited about it. And then that 2-month project became a 2-year project. We partnered up with a prototyping company in Italy, NCS, by Marcello Fantuzzi, and he was an amazing partner on this project. So he basically built out the whole bike. He works with companies like Ferrari and those big brands. So he built out this bike for us as a prototype. We did a few different prototypes. We failed. We kept improving, and then that bike design, the prototypes that we have, were displayed in Eurobike in Germany and different design museums around the world, in Chicago, Atlanta, Netherlands, and so on. So, that's a really great case study for me because it's all about, sometimes you don't have the vision of, okay, it's going to take 2 years or 3 years. It's baby steps. We took the 2-week baby step. We got excited about it. It became 2 months. It became more serious and more serious and more serious. And it's the same with any other project. I mean, especially talking about conceptual projects. It's good to do stuff on the side for fun, and you never know where it could take you. Sometimes it could become a huge commercial project.
Yeah, because I remember I was in my 3rd year of college when I saw this project, and honestly, I didn't know that you were behind the project. And when I checked your profile and I saw that, I was, it was one of the groundbreaking projects for sure, even as a student. So I mean, but again, it's a very conceptual design, So what were your objective behind, giving enough time to it? Because you mentioned that you gave it like 2 years. So, I mean, you had any objective in mind, or you were just, getting that call?
So the initial objective was just to have fun. Let's make a concept bike. How can we push the boundaries? Of course, we know nothing about bikes. I won't say nothing. I mean, we both ride bikes, but we don't know the specifics and technicalities about bike design. So, we challenged ourselves to do something where there is no right or wrong. It's like me telling you, let's make a bike that flies. It's a concept. There's no right or wrong. And then what really took time was taking that concept and building an actual prototype out of it. Like the way the frame is designed, on the first prototype, if you sat on the bike, the frame would bend just because of the structure of it. And then we had to learn from that. We had to make a second frame, third and fourth frame. How can we make it more lightweight? It was super heavy. So that's stuff that you don't really think about when you are drawing on paper or you are working in 3D. But now that you have the actual physical product, it's the same with shoes. Like we do super cool shoes. And then you go to the factory, you get the first sample, you're like, oh, this is heavy as a brick. Oh, because I didn't think about the materials. What am I going to use? What's the upper going to be? What's the sole going to be? So it just opens up a whole new set of challenges and questions that you have to think about and problem solve, and becomes more serious, as you move from the concept world towards the reality world, bringing those two worlds together.
Yeah, I also think that you need a really high level of creative confidence to, pull something off, because you made it sound easy, you just liked it and you followed it. So, I mean, this was...
And collaboration is key. I mean, to your point, collaboration is key. If I was to do this project by myself, maybe it would have taken me 6 years and probably I would have never done it because I would have got super stressed out and tired. If my partners have done it alone, it would have been the same thing. But because we collaborated, we have different experiences, we excite each other. I might see the solution to a problem that you might not see, but next time you might see a solution that I might not see, and so on. Like when we build together and put our minds together, that's really where the magic happens. So that's super key, collaboration.
So
And good teammate.
Yeah. So back in the day, you had an idea about power of collaboration, maybe, or I mean, were you you've been always a person who's collaborated towards a project, or that was something that where you found a problem. Okay, maybe I need someone to take this forward.
Absolutely. I mean, even in the industry, like when I worked for Adidas or when I work with different brands, let's say we have we want to understand the human body. You want to design a shoe. I'd work with a doctor. I'd try to understand the anatomy of the body. I'd work with a sports scientist. I'd work with a material engineer. I'd work with when it comes to the design, color designer, graphic designer, material designer. Going to the factory, they have so much experience. Try to learn from them. And it's really this symphony that, everybody's doing their part. And at the end of the day, we come up with a great project. It's just like even in sports, you have a soccer team, you have a basketball team. It's not a one-man show. Everybody does their part together. We succeed, and you get the win.
Yeah, it makes sense, Hussain. So I mean, and after this venture, what made you call this off? Okay, so I mean, it was done whatever you wanted from the project.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so the project after doing all those prototypes, going in different museums, we were featured in so many places. We won awards for it. So it remained an icon that is still referenced today. And now we are thinking from that project, we got many more projects. We got automotive projects. We got another bike project. And there is actually a project that we are working on at the moment because of the end cycle. And that's the beauty of concepts. Sometimes you make a blue sky project, a blue sky concept project. And this happened to me many times. Like I just put it on Instagram. I do something that is cool. The next day, Nike calls me. The next day, another brand calls me because they saw something similar to what they are working on. Okay, why don't you join us and let's, work on this project together. So never underestimate the power of a concept or a power of a blue sky crazy idea. It could be crazy and silly, but it could also lead to somewhere cool.
So, I mean, was that the reason that you worked at Nike because of that project?
No, that got me some projects. I joined Nike before that project.
Okay. And how did that happen? Because again, you worked on something which was conceptual and automotive, and then you're working at, a shoe innovation brand.
So for me, I mentioned in the beginning, I started doing desktop wallpapers for NBA players. For me, what got me into design was sports and design. Like those two things, it really fueled me up to be interested in what I'm doing today. That was the very beginning for me. I love basketball. I love football. And those things, got me moving in the design world. So my dream was always to work for Adidas, always work for Nike, Puma, these big companies. So landing at Nike, it was probably the biggest dream that I had at that moment, that I want to work at Nike. And my entry into Nike was through a design internship, summer 2012. And they had about 10,000 applications for that year. And they chose, there were only 12 or 14 design interns. So it was super competitive. And for me, Nike changed everything for me because it changed my mentality, how I think, how I approach design, how I approach innovation, how I think about innovation. Many of the things that I talk about in my book, I mean, it came from Nike as a starting point. Then beyond that, also my connections, like people I got to meet, learn from. These people went to different companies. So networking is super important, and we can talk about that more. But that also opened more doors and more doors, throughout my career. Even when I went to Adidas, again, because I knew some people who were at Nike. And until this day, the more you build your network, the stronger you become and the more work you can get from all these different companies.
Yeah, and when you talk about network, was it something? I mean, you had a habit of reaching out to people, or right people met you on the way. What was your approach? Because again, everyone's been putting their foot forward on LinkedIn these days, and I don't think if it was the same maybe 6 years ago or some time back. So I mean, was this something that you were doing constantly?
LinkedIn is definitely getting super crowded now, and all those cold messages and emails, I'm not definitely not a fan of. Don't do that. uh, for me, when I joined Nike, I was very proactive about meeting different people that I had heard of before or I heard of within Nike. So I met a lot of new people. And at the time, I was doing also my master's of industrial design in Canada, University of Alberta. So part of my master's degree was doing a thesis. So my thesis was about innovation and biomimicry and how can we be inspired by nature and, come up with creative, innovative ideas. So that was kind of my entryway to set up these meetings with all these amazing designers and influential people at Nike. So all the way up to Tinker Hatfield, I got to meet with him when I was at Nike. And, I would talk to them about innovation. I would talk to them about their process. I would talk to them about creativity, design thinking. I would share my work. So it became a very kind of, I'd say, informal setup where we would talk and chat. And that's where the relationships built. And then I would follow up, when my thesis was done, I shared it with them. If there was any major projects, I would share it with them. I had that connection and I had that possibility to reach out to them even in the future until this day. So that really helped. Like being at Nike and emailing them within the walls of Nike, that was much easier than me not being there and emailing as an outsider. So, I mean, even like I always tell people, even when I was at Adidas or any other company, you don't know how long you're going to stay there. You don't know when you're going to leave. You don't know how things are going to change. So while you are there, reach out to different people and, just set up informal meetings, see their work, let them see your work, give you feedback. So I tried to get as much feedback as I could at that time from all these amazing designers, and I learned so much from them. And it also makes them happy, like that they are giving back. They see you as a young generation, they see you as aspirational talent, and they try to guide you and teach you and move you in the right direction. So for me, that was definitely one of the best things that I did, and having them as mentors as well.
So, I mean, definitely this sounds like like quite a big leap, when you were kicking off your career. What do you think made the biggest impact? Was it your portfolio, the kind of work you were doing, or I mean, were you like a good communicator? I'm just curious to know.
It's a good question. It's a really good question. I'd say portfolio is key. And when I say portfolio, I don't mean like how good a project is. Because honestly, like you just go to Behance, it's flooded with amazing designers and amazing projects. So it's not a matter of talent. Talent is a factor, but it's not the only talent. How do you present your project? How do you tell a story? Like the idea of storytelling is really important, even in the industry. Let's say I designed the shoe, I designed the logo. What's the story behind this logo? What inspired you? Why did you choose these colors? Why did you choose these shapes? And just telling that in a very visual way. Like for me, when I joined Nike or when I got the design internship, I sent my portfolio in a box. It was basically a box that I got from Bed Bath Beyond, or not Bed Bath Beyond, from the Body Shop. I don't know if you have that store in India.
Yeah, we have.
It's basically a store that sells soaps and that kind of stuff. So I was looking for a specific size box and I just couldn't find it until I got to the Body Shop. I saw a really interesting box. And I have it on my website. We can share the link with the listeners. And it didn't have a Body Shop logo on it, which was super important. So I got that, it's I took out all the soaps, the shampoo and everything. And then I built a foam structure inside. And then I had 12 projects, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And each project was a small booklet. So it was different logos, web design, and different stuff. And each one was a booklet of 16 pages maybe. And in those booklets, I told the story of each project, where it started, what was the brief, what was I thinking about, how I got to this decision, my different iterations, what was the final outcome. And then I packaged those in a very nice way. It had a card on top of it, explaining who I am, like a short bio, the clients I've worked with. So it was kind of premium packaging, had a nice ribbon on it, and I shipped it off. So definitely the guy who opened this up and made the decision at Nike, they had a good experience because it was different. Like, and I'm just making these numbers up. Like maybe 9 out of 10 people, they sent a regular book portfolio. Maybe it was binded in a nice way. And probably it has really amazing work inside of it. But when you hold something different and it catches your attention, that's really important. So I guess the big thing is what experience also, not just the story. what experience are you creating for the person that's looking at your work? Like I had a physical product. I walked them through a kind of, they probably felt something. They were excited when they held it. And then that impacted their decision and, okay, let's choose him and he deserves a spot to be here. So think about the details, go up and beyond what everybody does. Like if the standard is here of being an amazing designer, that's really good, but try to take it just, a notch higher. What else can I do that no one is doing? Don't try to be the next amazing designer because you're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah, that's a great approach, Hussain. And I mean, it's a crazy thought. I mean, you decided to send them a box with whatever you've done. Kudos for that. It's not very easy for us designers, especially in this age, to take a leap of faith, to reach out to someone they really like. And do you think Nike has kicked off your career in a way where you are doing more shoes moving forward?
I think like this is an interesting thing also. Like if I ask you what is Nike, you would probably say it's a shoe company. Okay, so their mindset is different. If you ask Nike, what do you do? They say we are an innovation company, but we just happen to do shoes and sports equipment, sports products. So that mindset is also really important. So when I was at Nike, true, I was working on shoes, I was working on sports products and retail and all that stuff. But it was at the end of the day all about innovation. So when I go to Adidas, when I go to this company, that company, again, it becomes all about innovation. I'm working on watches here. I'm working on shoes here. I'm working on cars here. But I still have the same mindset of being innovative. So that was super key. And I wasn't very familiar with I knew what innovation was before I joined Nike, but I hear the word so many times when I was there. And I was like, oh, it's not really about good design that looks cool. Like as a young designer, you just want to do stuff that looks cool, aesthetically nice. But when I went to Nike, it's like, oh, it's really about innovation. How are we innovating? What's the impact? What are we changing in this product? What are we doing different? How are we improving it? And so on. So innovation was one big thing. Story was another big thing, being at Nike. And I guess fusing those two together, it's where all the excitement happens.
So, I can see from your journey that, you I think had a great time in Nike, and then the next step you take is working at Adidas. So, I mean, you basically worked with, two pioneers out there in this industry. So, I mean, was it like planned or it happened in the way? Was it?
No, not at all. I mean, so yeah, an important thing for me was that I'm not a US resident or a citizen. So at that time, like even getting that internship was really hard. Like even just figuring out the visa, speaking to their HR, nobody knew like what I was supposed to do. How do I even get there? Because I was in Canada at the time. So I had a lot of homework to do, figuring things out, what kind of visa I need, working with HR to get the right paperwork, working with the embassy and so on. So that was for the internship. But then next steps after that, like I was supposed to join Nike actually a few times. But every time there was, like, I don't want to get into the specifics of it, but H-1B visa and work visas in the US, it's a bit complicated. And you can only get in at a certain month based on that visa. So I missed some opportunities. Some opportunities were gone because of the visa situation. But meanwhile, I also worked at Nike on different projects. I worked with the basketball team. I worked with the retail team, running team, did lots of amazing projects as a consultant. So I was even going to headquarters back and forth while I was in Canada. So that was with Nike. And then in 2016, I joined Adidas full-time, and I worked there for about 3 years, senior designer. And again, it was for me, the love of sports, wanting to do more in sports. I worked on some really amazing projects. Worked with James Harden, basketball player MVP. Worked on products for Damian Lillard, Tracy McGrady, and other amazing players. So it was really good. The environment was nice, lots of creative people. Learned a lot, gave a lot. So yeah, definitely had a blast at Adidas. And then after Adidas, I started my own studio. And then throughout my own studio, that's where I really expanded beyond sports. I got to work with Ford, Automotive, worked with Apple, worked with Amazon and other amazing brands, Pepsi. So now, it's it's becoming really much wider beyond sports, and just really enjoying things and looking at everything through an innovative and a design lens.
Wow. Just want to know about your approach of creating your an independent brand, because again you could have gotten a place for you anywhere, whichever company you wanted. So how did this happen? Because again, as a designer, I mean there are very less creative entrepreneurs out there who thinks about kicking off their own company. Was this something was always in the charts, or you saw that okay, there's a great potential if if I'm going on my own path?
I think the big thing for me is always asking what's next. So it was always the dream for me was to work for Nike. Okay, I got to Nike. I did the internship. Then I worked for Nike as a consultant. Then I worked for Adidas, as a senior designer. Then I was also asking, what's next? What's next? So I had two paths, whether it was I wanted to grow within the industry, or whether I saw a potential that I could grow bigger on my own and, venture on my own and do much more than sports. That was something that I was really excited in. And I took the second route, which was, starting my own studio. And inside of me, I'm always excited about entrepreneurship and, having that entrepreneurial mindset, taking something that's small, scaling it, being responsible for your own decisions. Sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong, building a team around myself. So there's some, really exciting aspects to having your own studio. And of course, there's a lot of hard work that goes into it. It's not, there's the good and the bad on each side. But the thing about working in the industry is, if we just want to briefly talk about it, one thing is that you get a lot of experience. You get a lot of contacts, network, exposure. You can work on big projects all the time, all these signature athletes. But at the end of the day, you're just a number in a company. So at some point, I think it's good to think about how can you build your own brand, your own studio, build something for yourself. Because, you see these companies, like in one day, somebody can be laid off because there's an economic situation. Because there's a problem in the company or whatever reason. That idea of just being a number in a company, I don't know, that's really always bothered me. No matter how much you gave, no matter how much input you had. But when I have my own brand and I can start to build on my own with my own team, I think at this stage in my career, it really excites me much more.
Yeah, and also, the kind of project you got when you kicked off Mossawi Studios was show oriented, or how difficult was it for you to build trust among getting that clients? Do you think that your previous experience helped to building trust among the new clients who are coming for you?
For sure, and also my network and word of mouth. And word of mouth is the most important thing. So when you do a project for a client. I did a project for somebody who, I'm not going to mention the company's name, but anyways, they worked for a big company and then they left that company and then they went to another company and they became the VP of design. And because they liked my work, so now I got more work in that new company and I got to work with his staff. Let's say he had 5 staff. And then those 5, they went to 5 different companies 2 years later. Now I have connections in 5 new companies that I never had. And so on, it becomes a ripple effect. So I guess the key is to always deliver quality work. Don't chase after the money a lot from the beginning. What you really want is quality. What you want is to have good work that's out there that you can be proud of, your clients can be proud of. And then that word of mouth is what's going to get you constant business and build those relationships as you go.
Yeah, well, one thing I've noticed in your journey, Hussain, is that I've studied industrial design, and a lot of my classmates have been placed at really nice places. They are great automotive designers. They are great product designers. But one thing I've noticed is that you gotta be a specialist in order to work around a specific product, a type of physical product. But from your journey, it looks like that you were a journalist. Was it one of the reasons that led you to start your own thing?
Not really. That's not the reason why it led me to start my own thing. But there's different opinions really, and even in the industry. Like, do you have to become a specialist in a very specific niche and just be really good at it? I think that's good. I think there's nothing wrong with that. And then the other opinion is like, you live once, like we mentioned before. look at great people in history like Leonardo da Vinci, where he was a sculptor, he was a painter, he was a philosopher, and so on. He was an engineer. So he did a lot of things. Definitely he was better at some things compared to other things. But don't let that stop you. And, like, I just have to be good at UI. I just have to be good at automotive design. So I think it really differs from one person to another person. In my opinion, I don't think there's a right answer to that. If you think that it's going to help you and it's going to push you and inspire you, then by all means, go and do more than one thing at the same time. Like for me, the way my brain works is it really helps me and inspires me to connect the dots better when I'm working on different things and when I know and explore different things. But for some people, they just like to be a footwear designer, end of story. They like to be a material designer. And there's nothing wrong with that. So I guess whatever makes you produce the best work and be the best version of yourself, then that's for every person to figure out on their own.
Yeah, asking the same question for your own company as well, because I think I've been, again, a person who's kicked off this agency, and I'm also from a design background, and whenever I have a mentorship call with someone and I try to have a conversation about how to run a creative business, a lot of them just talks about doing one thing really good. Like, they ask sometimes they suggest to be in that specific area and be a specialist agency. How is it working with you?
So for me, when I started my studio, it was I do see I see your point clearly. Like, I had that tension of, do I want to do industrial design or do I want to do visual effects? So I guess those are like the two main things that I do work on now. But then my idea was, okay, let's go back to that idea of creating intersections. I want to, blur the lines between these two fields, industrial design and visual effects. And then I can provide both services, either individually, separately, or I can provide you a service that nobody else can because I can work on both these things. So let me give you an example. Like when I was in the shoe industry, footwear industry, the way that traction patterns were done, like on the bottom of the shoe, on the sole, a lot of times it's just designed in Illustrator. So, or it's like somebody working on an iPad in Procreate. But with the new tools that we had, like I was able to introduce a few new tools that we never worked on as a team. I use Houdini, 3D Max. These are things that are used for visual effects, for 3D in general. And I would create these parametric designs for the traction that, we would have never been able to achieve just using Illustrator. I would build an algorithm, and that algorithm would output different results. And as a team, we would start to look at them like, oh, this is nice, this is nice. We would get more ideas, get inspired, and then change the algorithm a bit more and, land on a design that we would have never been able to do without the help of the computer or these softwares. Again, these softwares are not for footwear design. So for me, it's building that, blurring the lines between those two fields, building things that are unexpected in unexpected ways. And that's really how we can start to, one of the ways to innovate. That's not the only way, but that's one of the ways that we can start to innovate.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, let's just talk about your book, Hussain. How did that happen? I mean, was it again in your charts or that came a little later? That okay, you realize okay, I think I have enough experience to write a book. And why did you even? I mean, I still have to read that book. But I mean, yeah, if you can let us know about what was how did that happen?
Sure. So I like to write a lot. I mean, I write blog posts and I like to talk about innovation in general and design. So that book was, it started out as a series of blog posts, which was called, I don't even remember the name. It was something to do with innovation. And then I started to think about creating a very short, fun read, to the point, things that, that allow you to think outside the box. And mostly it was a book for myself that I wish I had 15, 20 years ago when I was starting to think about design. So it's really simple tips, simple things that we can do to change our mindset and approach towards design that can help us innovate better. And it's not really just things that I am saying, it's things that I've experienced working with companies like Nike, Adidas, Apple, Pepsi. And it's things that I saw within the designers that work there. It's the mindset of the designers that allows them to come up with great and big ideas. So that was the intention behind the book. how can I make a book that is fun read, simple, to the point, with lots of stories and examples from my career, from other people's careers, that can help you innovate and think outside the box.
Yeah. How long did it take you to write the whole thing?
Oh, that was a new experience for me. It's my first book. So it took about 1.5 years, 2 years. So writing it, rewriting it like 100 times, choosing the stories, choosing the different points that you want to emphasize on, then working with an editor, designing the book, illustrations, printing, shipping, selling. It's a whole learning curve that I had to go through. But it was a fun one, a stressful and a fun one. But I think the outcome was well worth it, and it was received pretty well. So that was nice to see.
And a little about your newsletter. Was it like an extended thing to your book?
Exactly. So the newsletter started after I launched the book, and it's for now it's a bi-weekly newsletter. I'm still like looking into if I want to keep it bi-weekly, make it monthly. But it's a very short newsletter. It's short stories about an innovator every 2 weeks. How did they innovate, the challenges they went through, the final results they landed on. And it's supposed to be like a 3-minute read that inspires you and, gives you the confidence and the motivation to innovate in your own space, whether you're a designer or doing anything else.
Yeah, you make sense. I think a lot of times, a lot of young designers and people who are, doing their own thing, need some, constant, consistent source of motivation and knowledge. So I've been seeing pretty great stuff with the Lamborghini shoes and also the Reebok Cardi collection. We want to talk about if you can maybe talk a little about the process you followed.
Sure. So those are two different projects. The Lamborghini it's a concept project, and again, it's one of those fun projects that I like to do. What if projects? What if Lamborghini designed a footwear, a performance footwear? Of course, they have some footwear, but just having my take on it. How can I bring some elements, some aesthetic elements from the cars that look fast and luxurious, and how can I bring that into footwear design? So it was a really fun practice for me, an exercise where I start to look at the design, the colors, the materials, and again, presentation. How do I render it? Working with my team, and just doing a project that is exciting. And this was a follow-up to another shoe that I did, which was what if Tesla designed football boots? Again, people got excited about it, so that's what I thought about the Lamborghini. And I have a series, so like I'm even thinking about different brands. What if they did shoes? And then maybe at some point I can move beyond shoes. What if another brand did furniture or so on? So that's something that I like to work on as a designer. Definitely inspires me, motivates me, and I do it for the fun of it. The Cardi shoes, so Reebok, I've worked with Reebok for a few years, and that was one of the shoes that was done actually in 2020. And I was responsible for doing the 3D for that. So not the shoe design. So the 3D and, how do you present the shoe? How do you show it in a nice way? How do you build the shoe in a very detailed way that matches the designer's vision? And the pictures that you saw, I haven't posted actually that project except on LinkedIn. The pictures that you saw are just eye candy beauty shots showing the shoe in different angles, the materials that we worked on, and again, just something that is visually pleasing to see. So those are those two projects.
Yeah, looks superb. Congrats for that, Hussain. For your shoe design projects, what's your process like? Do you like sketch a lot of shoes, or it starts with sketching, or you are maybe in a space where you can directly explore into 3D?
So again, that's a really good question. Like we go back to the idea of, do you want to be specific, and like how do we mix the different tools that we have? So going to footwear, I do not sketch a lot. I do scribble a bit, and I do some doodles, but then I like to jump into 3D and explore in 3D. So that was another challenge. Like when I was in the industry, like 3D was looked at as a tool that you would just build a shoe. Like I give you a sketch, build a shoe. That was the expectations of 3D. But now the mindset in the industry has really shifted. Like you have some tools like Gravity Sketch. And I think Gravity really have pushed the way people see things in 3D. Because now you can start to design in 3D. You can start to iterate in 3D. You can start to explore. I have a shoe. copy paste, change one small thing, copy paste, change another small thing. In an hour, I can have 20 shoes to look at and compare and see what's the best option. So sketching is really good. And I love sketching, and it's a powerful tool. And there are some people who do it really good, and I love seeing it. But again, like, choose what's best for your process. For me, I like to think in 3D. That's just how, I've been all my life. Even if I'm doing a car design, bike design, just hold shift, copy, at least in 3D Max, and then change and iterate and start to explore. So that's also another way where we can bring the 3D world and the industrial design world and fuse them together and come up with a new process.
Yeah. I mean, I love 3D myself. I mean, that's the whole reason, I started, I started this agency where I can create amazing 3D. Do you think that suddenly there's this shift, in the motion design world and 3D world, which we every day we are seeing some kick-ass work out there. What do you think? Where is it going? I mean, do you think that it has more value for the projects? And even with the graphic, as you said, that graphic designers used to do like flat stuff, but I think that definition is also changing as they try to add a lot of 3D into it. So do you think we need a lot of 3D in order to make an impact out there?
I don't think it's about 3D really. And what excites me most is like the past, 10, 15 years, the impact of social media. Like just having, it's flooded now with amazing designers on Instagram, even on Behance and, other websites. And to me, that's super exciting to see. It's super inspiring because every time you think you came up with something new, there's something newer, there's something better. And it's not really about being the best and doing of course you strive to do work that is amazing, but just seeing other people and how they do things differently and their take on things, it's really exciting. Like there's this 36 days of type challenge. I don't know if you follow it on Instagram. It's been there for...
I've been doing it for 3 years.
Ah, nice. Cool. Yeah, I've never done it, but I always follow it. So it's really interesting.
Fun.
Like, okay, today is the letter A. Then you have hundreds of designers looking at the letter A in different mediums, different styles, different ways. And it's just mind blowing. Like to me, that's super exciting. And then it's the same with everything else. Like even if you're looking at color design, you're looking at materials, you're looking at sound design, there's always something out there that is pushing the bar or that makes you think differently. I think that's key. It makes you think differently. It gives you a whole new perspective of how things could have been done. Or, okay, what if I use this technique into the work that I'm doing? And that's how you build new stuff. It's a remix. You don't always reinvent the wheel. It's stuff that exists out there, and you put your twist on it, then I put my twist on it, and then another guy puts their twist on it, and that's really how you innovate and you build some cool stuff and new stuff that's never been seen before.
All right, Hussain. I mean that leads us to the last question of the podcast. What's the future for Mossawi Studios? What are we expecting from you?
Keep building and always asking what's next. Never be satisfied. There's something that someone at Nike told me once, and it stuck with me to this day. He said, always be humble and hungry. So always be humble with people, no matter where you reach. Don't forget your beginnings, but at the same time, always be hungry for more. So that's, I guess, my mindset. That's always been my mindset from the very beginning. Always ask myself, what's next? What's next? What's next? If I have something, how can I grow it? How can I move on to the next big thing? And so on. I think that's always good to ask ourselves.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Hussain, for hopping on the podcast. I hope you had a great time.
Absolutely. Loved it. Thanks for having me.